All right, y'all, how we doing? Patrick here with Vetted. Okay, we have a great video today about Bob Lazar. We give a couple minutes, just let some people join, and then we'll get going here. Okay. Hope y'all are doing okay. Just getting this chat looked at here. All right. Yes, we have a lot to discuss today. It's going to be interesting. That is for sure. I'm going to try to get everyone's chats. I know people are going to say something. Anytime you ask questions about Bob Lazar, people just immediately freak out. How dare you? He's a hero. Listen, we're here to ask questions, y'all. He's a fascinating person. Now, this is going to be part one of this conversation. Okay, so I am going to do another part. There's so much to cover with that guy, to be honest with you, and there is a lot of inconsistencies in his story. I'm not saying his story is not true, but there are a lot of inconsistencies. Now, to be fair, I'm going to share, the Joe Rogan link, right? So you can check that out. That's from his perspective. That's him telling his story, right? We're going to share the movie from Jeremy Corbell, right? That's his biggest fan, George Knapp as well. But I just have some interesting things that I found. I pulled together all these different clips that you may or may not have seen. Again, there's so much out there, right? And if you go to this, there's a Bob Lazar bunked website. I'll put a link for that, but we're not just going to go through that, okay? That's not the goal here. We're going to look at different things about Bob Lazar, and then we're going to see what's up. I don't know. I found some interesting things. There's some interesting things that don't line up and add up, right? So, again, I'm going to put a lot of sources. If you check the description, there's a lot in there. I got one more a message sent to me just, not too long ago. I'm going to share that as well. That's very interesting. I don't know if I'll play anything from the channel, but it doesn't have many subscribers or anything. It's kind of hidden, but it's got a lot of raw Bob Lazar material that if you pay attention to, it's just saying it's quite interesting. So to sort of get everyone to figure out who Bob Lazar is, okay, to be fair here, I'm going to play part of the trailer from Jeremy Corbell's documentary. Now, there's a new documentary out. We are going to play that trailer. If you don't want to wait for me, in the description, there's a link to it. Okay, you can, and it's clearly identified. And click that and go watch yourself. We are going to watch that, but not really till the end, because it all sort of lines up with something that I'm trying to present. So anyway, let's just play this. This is the part, not the whole thing, part of the trailer from Jeremy Corbell's Bob Lazar documentary. And guys in the chat, please, I see everyone in the chat. Hello. Please tell me if the audio's good. Everything sounds good on my end. Looks great, but you guys tell me. All right, let's go here, guys.
My name's Bob Lazar. I'm known for working at a classified base and reverse engineered alien spacecraft.
It went all over the world. He put Area 51 on the map.
Can we ever be made whole if we're not believed?
We can't verify what was going on in his background.
I have no motivation to lie. The science and the technology can change us.
We've always looked to the skies for answers instead of looking into ourselves.
Bob Lazar. I mean, look, Mickey Rourke, the wrestler, baby. Darren Aronofsky, great film. Check it out if you haven't. Anyway, so there's a little piece about Bob Lazar, right? Like who he is. In case you don't know, please Google him. There's some links down below in my description if you're just like, I don't know who Bob Lazar is. I can't imagine you don't if you're in the UFO community. But there's a lot of people that just are new to it. They come in, they don't know what much is going on. There's a lot of things I don't know that people are like, how do you not know that? because there's there's literally a worldwide amount of stuff and stories of people and events and this and that, to know. So anyway, right here, I put a link down about his description and Wikipedia, who he is, his background, some claims. You may or may not agree with it, but just some different things we're going to focus on is his education. Okay, I know people freak out about that, but that's important to me. And there's some inconsistencies, and I found this very interesting George Knapp clip that I know you guys are going to be fascinated by, especially if you haven't seen it before. And something I just want to start off with right off the bat. Oh, and the next thing I found is this great clip of Stanton Friedman and Jeremy Corbell talking, and it's quite fascinating. Okay, Jeremy Corbell says something in there off the cuff that I don't think anyone noticed. And to me, that's like, what? This is not adding up at all. Again, he said it as like a positive for Bob Lazar, but to me, it doesn't come out as a positive. And we'll get to that in a minute, what that is. So I don't want to ruin it here. I have to show the video. I got to go in order here, guys. So anyway, his Wikipedia, go check it out. We're not going to go through all that. Who's this guy? Who's this guy on the screen here, right? Edward Snowden. Why am I bringing him up? Well, George Knapp compares Bob Lazar to Edward Snowden. I thought, okay, that's interesting, right? Because of what they're doing. Well, if you just Google search all over for Edward Snowden, you know what you do find? His academic records, right? They didn't wipe his academic records or his birth records or anything like that, because that's what Bob Lazar claimed about himself, is that they deleted my records, man. They got rid of it. They deleted it, my birth record too, like it's all been deleted. That's why the things I'm saying of where I went is just not around. Okay, check this out. Again, Edward Snowden's you can find. He's considered one of the, he leaked thousands of information about the NSA, right? And his stuff is still around. You can find everything about him. Oh, God, my bad, guys. Hang on, let me put this on disturbed. Just got a phone call. There we go. Anyway, yes, you guys can hear me. Great. This is... So, Edward Snowden, National Security Agency, right? Huge leak. You still find everything out about him. Nothing gets washed, if you will. And then I found there's this huge list of whistleblowers you can find on Wikipedia. And if you just Google, I'm talking so many whistleblowers dating back to 1777, y'all. Okay? So, and I just picked random ones as I went. It took me like an hour, okay? I just picked random names to not be like whatever, and I would search that whistleblower. Guess what? Their medical records, their academic records were all there. No one, in fact, I Googled, has a government ever deleted academic or there's ever been a story of that? Bob Lazar is one of the only people to ever claim that ever. I don't think you realize how difficult that would be. And the teachers and the students and everything around that to make that disappear, right? So I'm just saying, that's odd. I'm not saying Bob Lazar's lying. I'm just saying that's odd, right? So again, I'll put links to all this. You can look at it yourself and figure it out. Corroborate what I'm saying. All right? Now, let's just jump into the nitty-gritty of some of this stuff that I found, all right? Let's jump into this clip. And you guys can tell me in the comments what you think. I'm definitely happy to hear if you have any questions. I mean, I don't know, right? Again, I'm not saying he's lying. I'm not saying he's telling the truth. I don't know. Right? I don't think we'll ever know the truth if he's telling the truth or not, right? I don't think about his specific story, not about UFOs or NHI, right? That's different. Just about him doing the work on it, right? That's all I'm going to talk about, and just really parts of his story, right? So anyway, let's jump into this.
Jeremy hands him photos of this very hand scanner, printed off the internet onto photo paper, so Jeremy can pretend that they are original photos. Sweet, sweet moment.
I can't believe you found the picture of this. But I tried to explain this to people so many times and they either didn't believe me or say, yeah, I'm sure there is.
Now, I'd hate to shine a light on Jeremy's investigative skills, but between Bob...
That's a low blow. But this is interesting, okay, about the scanner. Okay, now forget this guy's voice and all of this stuff, but this scanner. Because Bob Lazar claimed this scanner and he used to use it and that sort of thing, right? And no one believed him. And now, you know, Jeremy Corbell showing him pictures of it.
The
investigative filmmaker?
Someone might have noticed that this...
Look at this. Like, it's literally in the movie Close Encounters, right? Steven Spielberg's movie. So Bob Lazar is so, like, perplexed that this has been found when you could... Anyone at any point in time could go to that movie and see that scanner. It doesn't make any sense, y'all. Why is he acting like it's some bombshell? I don't get that. And there's more pictures of it. I found it too. And, you know, I don't know if Jeremy Corbell printed it on photos. I mean, he clearly didn't take the photo himself, right? But he printed it out, put it on photos. Okay, I get it. You're a filmmaker. You're trying to make it seem whatever. But when it's a film about the truth, and is this guy telling the truth, right? Like, that's what it's about. It wasn't about Bob Lazar, because if you watch interviews of Jeremy Corbell, he said, I wanted to know if this guy could be trusted. I wanted to know if he was telling the truth, right? It wasn't just some biography about Bob Lazar. It was literally to find out if he's telling the truth. So I'm just saying, those are their words. You can Google that, look on YouTube. There's tons of interviews of Jeremy promoting the documentary where that's what he says, okay? Again, I don't have time to go through all this stuff. There's just too many videos, too much stuff to talk about. You will get canceled for talking about the prophet Bob Lazar. I doubt it. There's lots of people that are questioning Bob Lazar. Again, I'm not saying whether he's true or not. What he's saying is true or not. These things are just interesting.
Scanner was used in one of the biggest sci-fi films of all time. Close.
And this movie came out when? Before Bob Lazar's story. So when people say, yeah, but he talked about this thing, like how would he have known about that? It's like, you know, at first I didn't know. So that was like a thing to me too. Well, shit, yeah, man, you're right. How would he have known? And then you find out this and you're like, wait a second. You don't think Bob Lazar saw this movie 87 times? Right? You don't think he went and saw this movie 87 times in the theater? I do. At least once, at minimum. But being a science fiction guy, this was one of the greatest films to ever come out. This is like, right, Stanley Kubrick level. So I know he saw it. In my opinion, I bet he saw it multiple times. Of course, I cannot corroborate that, right? But there's no way he didn't see this movie. And in fact, a lot of Bob Lazar's story, people start to pull from. You start to see, oh, wait, this came from this magazine. This was from this guy's story and what he said. And this is from this. Again, it's just interesting. Why would all that be out there then? Why does, you know, we got some stuff on Element 115 that I find fascinating. But anyway, let's save that. Let's get back to his education. Listen, this is George Knapp in his own words, okay? He is speaking, right? And this is going to be about Bob Lazar's education, all right? So, I don't know. This is just a huge red flag for me, but you guys tell me what you think.
And it sort of goes to the point that it's taken on a life of its own, and we couldn't stop it if we wanted to. The second thing I wanted to convey is how we...
Real quick, that buzz, that's not me. That's this video and the way it's put up, and that's just what it is. And again, everything I'm showing you guys in the description, the links are there. You can watch it for yourself.
This story as journalists. I did not go into this as a lark. It wasn't a joke. I approached it as a story, and I knew there were great risks involved in this because of our credibility. Our credibility of the whole station was on the line. If we screwed this up and promoted this guy as some UFO messiah and it blew up in our face, we might not ever recover. The state credibility was on the line.
The stations, we're going to get to the education part, sorry. The station's credibility was on the line, right? Let's take a look at how that interview even happened, right? So again, let's just listen to that one more time here, y'all. I'm just saying.
Made up, but there's the guy who's official tour guide for Area 51 making this stuff up. And it sort of goes to the point that it's taken on a life of its own, and we couldn't stop it if we wanted to. The second thing I wanted to convey is how we pursued this story as journalists. I did not go into this as a lark. It wasn't.
How did they start pursuing this story? Again, pay attention to these words. This is the second time I'm playing it.
Joke. I approached it as a story, and I knew there were great risks involved in this because of our credibility. Our credibility of the whole station was on the line. If we screwed this up and promoted this guy as some UFO messiah and it blew up in our face, we might not ever recover. The station's credibility was on the line.
Station's credibility was on the line. So, again, George Knapp's own words. And I like George Knapp. I got nothing against this guy. 8 News Now, Las Vegas, 4 years ago. Okay. Listen to this.
Was the co-anchor of the 5 o'clock news with Paula Francis, and our newscast back then featured a nightly interview segment. The guest we had scheduled for that day bailed on us at the last minute, so I placed a call to famed aviator John Lear because he'd been telling me he knew someone who'd been hired to work at an ultra-secret military base near Groom Lake. We had no idea the interview would still be of interest 30 years later.
So, again, he throws this guy without vetting him on the air to talk about a top secret base that he had been told about before, right? And just throws him on the air because a guest cancels. Like, oh, who can we get? Let me just real quick. I'm talking day of, y'all, right? So again, this is just interesting. So the credibility of the station was on the line.
It wasn't a joke. I approached it as a story, and I knew there were great risks involved in this because of our credibility. Our credibility of the whole station was on the line. If we screwed this up and promoted this guy as
I'm sorry, but that just makes no sense, right? I get later on you start to do more stories, right? If you notice right here, the very first time they have him on, Bob Lazar doesn't show his face. He goes by Dennis. Okay? And he doesn't show his face. I'm just saying. It just seems odd. I don't think they took it that seriously at the beginning. You know what I mean? They just threw him on. It blew up. And then they're like, okay, let's look into this. Right? Let's get some Bob Lazar stories. But I don't think, right, anything. I think if this wouldn't have garnered any attention, you would have never heard from this guy ever again. But people were interested, right? So anyway, that's interesting. All right, let's get back to more of this.
UFO messiah, and it blew up in our face, we might not ever recover. The station's credibility was on the line, and I know it looks preposterous from the get-go, and that many of our competitors wished it was preposterous, but that's not how it's turned out. My friend and colleague Stan Friedman has been out.
Right here, Stan Friedman. Remember that guy? Famed UFO researcher. Okay, he's not just some nobody. He's well respected within the UFO community.
And about Area 51 and Bob Lazar. He thinks it's possible. He buys the idea there could be flying saucers out there, but he doesn't buy Lazar. And he's been way out in front.
Exactly. I think that's where a lot of people stand as well. Right? You don't have to believe in Area 51 and S4 and things were happening and also believe Bob Lazar. Right? Like that's just the truth. You can believe not believe Bob Lazar, which there's a lot of people, serious people within the UFO community that don't believe him at all, right? And as far as fans of whatever, people on that, whatever, people watching at home, right? They don't have a platform, whatever. There's probably more people that believe him than not, right? Because his story sounds amazing, right? So you may want to believe it because, well, you want that to be true, so you believe it. Well, he sounds reasonable, and you're not really trying to dig in to find out what's going on, right? I don't know. It just, to me, if it is that fantastical and that amazing, we have to scrutinize it the most, right? In order to prop it up for people to see it as legitimate, right? Because otherwise you just prop it up to the rest of the world and say, see, we got stuff going on, and you didn't vet it at all, right? You didn't really do anything about it. Now they look at it and go, wait a second, this, and this is BS. Then you cry wolf. People think you cry wolf, and then the UFO community looks crazy. And guess what, right? It starts to lose legitimacy, right? So I'm just saying, anything that we think is actually real, we should vet it the most. We should be the most, we should be scrutinizing it the most. That's the truth. All right. And this channel, that's what I do. I ask questions. I find things that are interesting, and this is interesting to me. I mean, this is literally would change the course of humanity if what Bob Lazar is saying is true. Right? So, yeah, we're going to ask questions. And anyone suspect of that, I'm suspect of them. How can we not ask questions about a guy claiming this stuff? He literally provided nothing of evidence or proof. He just talked. He just said things, All right, wait, look, we got a couple comments. Let me read them. We just don't know who's telling the truth until we see with our own eyes. Yeah, I agree. I think because he had vouched for by John Lear that George trusted the source. I get that. That doesn't mean anything. Again, if this is the greatest, you should have had 10 sources vouching for him, right? That's my opinion. And look where they're at with John Lear now. Look where that relationship is at, right? Because what happened? If you Google this, again, there's a lot to this. John Lear starts to say different things than what Bob Lazar starts to say down the road, right? And so you have people like Jeremy Corbell, who followed John Lear around with a camera, was supposed to make a documentary just like he did with Bob Lazar, now calling John Lear crazy. That guy's crazy. Right? Why? Because the story was going to be inconsistent with what Jeremy Corbell was going to put in the Bob Lazar interview, right? It's like, because it doesn't add up. Maybe John Lear is crazy. I don't know. Just things aren't adding up. And when things don't add up, I mean, we're human. It's in our nature. It's how we evolved. It's how we survived the plains fighting off lions, right? Like our instincts are alert. The hair on the back of our neck, on our forearm, it sticks up. It's just who we are. We can sense things. Something's off. For me, something's off here. And I'm not the type of person to ignore it because of what he said I want to be true. Well, then I'm just going to ignore all those things. So again, I'm not saying he's lying or he's telling the truth. I don't know. But these things are fascinating. Let's continue with George Knapp here.
I have to give Stan credit for doing some of the legwork. Unlike a lot of Bob's critics, Stan has gone to MIT and Caltech and looked for Bob Lazar's educational credentials, and he found them lacking. And I applaud him for that.
Hang on. What's Joanna saying? I'm sorry, Joanna. I want to read you're leaving all the comments. I want to make sure I read them here. If he truly believed he wouldn't care about his reputation, if I knew all this, I wouldn't care about credibility of station. I don't know what that means. If I was him, I wouldn't care about station. I'd want to help humanity know the truth. I don't know what that means. I wouldn't care about station. I don't know what that means. So not sure what that means. Station. Yeah.
Because that part of Bob's story is weak, Stan has written the whole thing off. which is what a lot of people have done. I don't know how to I've tried to remind Stan about this in person, and I've said it in public a few times, but the important thing is with Lazar is that the information about his educational background was in the very first story that we aired. The very first report that identified him, we said we could not verify his background. And I will confide to you this. I don't believe he ever went to those schools. I don't believe Bob Lazar could get a degree from Caltech or MIT for a very simple reason. At American universities, when you
Joanna, can you explain what you meant by that? You wrote exactly so true. No, I said I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know what you mean by I wouldn't care about station. I don't know what that means. What is station? What are you trying to say with that? I'm sure that just it's auto-correcting wrong. Anyway, so George Knapp is saying, I don't believe he went to those schools. Right? Continue to listen to this. This is insane. What?
Degree, an undergraduate degree, you have to take all kinds of core courses in subjects that you may not be interested in. Literature. I cannot possibly imagine, and Anna, you know Bob, I can't imagine Bob Lazar sitting through a class in American Lit or reading poetry or something like that. He'd never stand for it. There is no way in hell that he sat through that stuff to get a degree. So what do we do? What do we do with that? Do we throw out the story? Here's how I...
Yeah, George, that's a huge thing. He's lying about his education and his knowledge. Think about that. You're even admitting you don't think that's true, that he went to these schools. Yet Bob continues to say he went to these schools, and there is no record of any of it, guys. No record. There's other records you can find that he went to these other schools. So they deleted his college records but kept some other over here. It doesn't add up, guys. It doesn't add up. And yes, that's a big deal if he's lying about his education. He's not lying about a class or two he took. He's lying about living in a particular city and state for years, and that didn't happen. And going to multiple classes, multiple teachers, multiple friends, students, right? Courses he took, degrees he got, master's degrees, lying about all of that. That is huge. That is absolutely massive, right? If that's what it is, right? I mean, George Knapp doesn't even think it's true. And he knows the guy. I'll give props to George for admitting it, but I think in his mind he thinks, well, by admitting this, right, let's just admit that because, yeah, you probably can't find anything. But should we throw away the baby with the bathwater? Yeah, because it's not just a baby here, right? It's not just a bathwater. Like, we're talking, what else did he lie about doing for years or months? Maybe working on a secret UFO reverse engineering program? It's not so far-fetched to think he would lie about that and then lie about this. One, why would the government hire him if his education is BS? He didn't do any of that. They're just going to hire some guy, some random dude, for no reason? I mean, is that what we're doing? They just brought in random people to reverse engineer UFOs? How do you know he'd be able to figure anything out? Why would you get someone that doesn't have these degrees? Again, it doesn't add up, man. It doesn't line up. There is no way in hell, if the reverse engineering program is real, they're just going to grab some dude, just some random guy who has no formal education in any of that, has no degrees whatsoever that can handle what they're trying to look at, right? Didn't go to MIT, didn't go to Caltech. I don't get it. Why? It just doesn't make any sense, man. It just doesn't add up. So again, this is Jeremy Corbell's own words, y'all, not mine. The TV station's credibility. Got it. Yeah, I mean, well, I can understand why he'd want to care about the credibility of the station. That checks. That makes sense. And his own credibility. It's not just the credibility of the station. It's George Knapp's credibility, right? And he's shown himself to be credible in many other areas. But that's a red flag. Like, again, I could see like one little thing's off. Again, one class is off that he said he took, he didn't take. We're talking about years that he's lying about where he lived, what he was doing, for years. Saying he graduated from MIT and from Caltech. And of course, the story changes over the years. Oh, well, I was taking secret classes that nobody knew about, that the government set up for me. What? The government was setting you up with real classes before you even got hired to do this program? Like, these things don't add up. And John Lear had already come out on the record, right? George Knapp's show. John Lear had already come out saying there was stuff at Area 51. There's stuff going on. UFOs, all of this happening. Alien bodies, right? And then he meets Bob Lazar. So you're telling me the government knows that Bob Lazar is friends with John Lear, right? They don't do a background check? I mean, give me a break, guys. And they're like, oh, no, that's cool. That guy that blew the whistle on this other stuff. Because he did blow the whistle on stuff that turned out to be real. John Lear, right? That did happen. And now he's saying this stuff about the UFOs, right? So they're just going to be like, yeah, let's bring that guy in. He's best friends with him. Again, guys, please. We just have to be realistic about this stuff, in my opinion, right? If we're trying to get to the truth, why would we spend time on stuff that's obviously like shady? Just obviously not adding up. Again, I'm not saying he's not telling the truth or whatever. It's just like, in my opinion, I don't think he is. I can't with 100% certainty. No one can with 100% certainty say anything. They can't say he's telling the truth or lying. But we can bring up the things around that just don't add up. It's shady. Lazar was at Pierce Junior College at the very same time he was supposedly at MIT, more than 2,500 miles away. Yeah, I agree. And that is true. And it's like, again, these things don't add up. It's just one thing after another that starts to not add up. You got George Knapp saying, yeah, I actually don't believe him either about his education. But what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. You just throw the whole story out. Again, he makes it seem like that's not a big deal. A lot of people lie about their education. Not people claiming to have the answer to the biggest question humanity has ever faced. Right? Again, he didn't lie about a class or a teacher he had or a student. He lied about years living in a different city and state. Right? And what do you think happened during those times? Did he have to eat, grocery shop, pay rent, pay bill, right? So he's lied about all of that for years. You don't think he's told a story about, my time at MIT? I can't imagine the stories he's told behind the scenes to people about his time at MIT, his time at Caltech. It's like just lying. That's crazy. And even George Knapp's like, yeah, he's lying, but not about this. He lied immensely about this thing that is super important, that would give you the qualifications to get you this thing, and you're saying that doesn't matter. Again, I'm just saying. Yes, the company you keep. I wish George had been more careful with the people he's worked with. I agree. I like George, man. I think George is a cool guy. But that's a red flag. And look, I'm not perfect either. But I think it's just so many years have passed. You put all your effort into this guy, and you just don't want to go the other way. Again, you become friends with them. You get to know their family. It becomes a lot harder to call them on their BS. And you start to sympathize with them more. Right? And that's the issue. It's something I talked about yesterday on the live stream. Talked about it numerous times. So anyway, let's move on to something else that I found was fascinating, which is the Element 115 stuff. Now again, Again, this is directly from George Knapp's mouth, okay? You can, again, links in the description to all of this. You can watch it all yourself, search it yourself, find it yourself, look at it yourself, watch it 100 times. There's more stuff to look at. Let's just listen.
All right.
Yeah, that was just tempting fate.
When you visited Bob's house, did you ever see the disc holding the 115?
Yes, I did. I was there with you when they were getting ready to set up filming on that.
I know they were really excited about it. I didn't really understand the little experiment they were going to do, but I do remember that disc that Bob said the 115 was in. And there were a couple of times when he had it in front of his particle accelerator sitting there, and he was ready to blow it up if somebody came to get him. See, he thought it was real.
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry. What did I just hear? Let's go down to the some text here to go over a little bit of what just happened. When you visited Bob's house, did you ever see the disc holding the 115? Element 115. So right there, they're admitting that Bob has element 115. I don't know if you watch Bob Lazar or Jeremy Corbell's documentary, but the whole point was like, does he have element 115? I can't admit it because the government will raid me for it, right? Because that part of that documentary, he gets his house raided, right? And it's all because they're trying to find my element 115, when really, if you look into it, that's not why they raided him at all, okay? And Jeremy Corbell creatively used that in a way, right? The reason he got raided was for something he actually got convicted for in the early 2000s, right? Honestly, same exact thing. And that's why they raided him, because they've already convicted him for selling chemicals you're not allowed to have and sell, right? Him and his wife. I'm just saying, it's odd. And look, nobody's perfect. I'm not saying because you've been convicted of a crime, you're a criminal, we're done with you, and later, of course not. I mean, anyone that follows me and Lone Star Plate knows what I think about restorative justice, right? People deserve a second chance, and a third maybe even, right? Like, and our justice system is shit, so I'm not defending it by no means. I'm just saying the reasons they're using of why he's telling the truth, right? Jeremy Corbell tried to make it seem that they're coming after element 115. That's why they raided him. Even Bob Lazar makes it seem like that in the film. They don't want to show element 115 because they don't want to say for 100% certain that Bob Lazar has element 115. Meanwhile, George Knapp's on Mystery Wire here just saying, so remember when you visited Bob's house, you saw the disc called 115? Like, what? Like, I mean, just throw that out. Yes, the other guy said, yes, I did. I was there with you when they were getting ready to set up filming on that. I know they were really excited about it. I didn't really understand the little experiment they were going to do. Nobody did, George. But I do remember that disc that Bob said the 115 was in, and there was a couple times when he had it in front of his particle accelerator sitting there. He was ready to blow it up if somebody came to get him. He thought it was real. He thought it was real. He was ready to blow it up if somebody came to get him. Meanwhile, these guys, again, this stuff just doesn't add up, y'all. I'm sorry. All right, let me see if I can get to some of these comments real quick. Yeah, I have a particle accelerator in my basement. Doesn't everyone? Yeah, of course. Again, you know, is Bob Lazar a smart guy? Let me tell you why Bob Lazar is a smart guy no matter what. If he's telling the truth or if he's lying. Because if he's telling the truth and he went to all these places for his education, he's clearly a smart guy. If he's lying, he's a smart guy. Think about it. Think about the lie he's been able to fool everyone with for so long. You're not an idiot if you do that. You might be a psychopath to lie that long to that many people, straight to their face, look them in the eye for that long and lie. That's what psychopaths do. I'm sorry. You have no emotion, no empathy for other people. right? That's just the definition of it. So is Bob Lazar a smart guy? Yeah, he is. Again, I'm not saying he's not telling the truth, but George Knapp has ousted him already on the Element 115, so we know that's bogus from Jeremy Corbell's documentary. We know that George Knapp doesn't even think his education is... I'm starting to think that maybe behind the scenes, George Knapp just doesn't even believe this guy. I don't know. It's odd. But, books. We got to sell books, guys. Documentaries. Just saying. We're going to get to one of the parts that I think is the most interesting. Okay, give me a second here. It's been said that like Bob Lazar didn't make any money off of this stuff, right? And he never attempted to. That's just entirely not true. And the more you look into that, the more you find out that is not true at all. Okay? So he tried to get a deal made with New Line Cinema, right? He signed a deal that was going to pay him a lot of money. Potentially Steven Seagal was going to be in this movie. I'm not joking. Okay? And going to get a big name director. This is in the 90s. About a U.S. government scientist secretly reverse engineering UFOs, right? And he was and Bob Lazar was shopping it around to different studios to get paid. And there's many other stories like that of him. I'm just saying the things that people throw out that like, it's not true. And then you look in and you go, well, wait, that is true. Why did you lie about that? Why'd you say that's not true when it is? If they were just say, yeah, I tried to make money off this. Yeah, I lied about my education, but this is still true. You'd have a lot more people believing you. But you're trying to maintain all these things and we find out you're lying. Like, why wouldn't people start to think you're lying about the main story you're telling? Because all the things you bring up to support that main story aren't true. Or don't add up anyway, right? So anyway, that's what I'm saying. All right, real quick, before we get to this main video, because it's kind of long. This is interesting. So there's a Danny Jones podcast. He had this guy on, Jeremy Riss, I think that's how you say his name. And he's really into like debunking Bob Lazar, like far deeper than I'll ever go, guys. He made this website. Okay, I'll put a link to it. I'm not using any of the stuff from the website, by the way. That's the truth. I went and found all my own stuff because I'll be honest, when you start to look through this, and I'm not, to be fair to Bob, there's a lot of like spelling errors on this website and things that are raw and just like, so I don't know. I was just like, you know what? I don't know about this, but you go check it out yourself. You find, do what you want. This link at the very top, Bob Lazar timeline on otherhand.org. That is interesting. That's well written. That's very interesting. The rest of this stuff, it's shoddy. Not gonna lie. I mean, I appreciate what this guy's doing, but it's a little shoddy. Like I can't even see this stuff. Like, what's going on? I don't even know what this is. Like, so whatever. I don't know about this site, but I'll put a link to it. You look at it yourself. That's the trailer right here that we're going to watch in a little bit, the new trailer for the film that's coming out. But check this out. So he goes on this podcast, this guy, to talk about all the Bob Lazar stuff, and it is interesting. But check this out.
Love to have a sit-down conversation with him where we could just get into it, on some of the stuff, man, because that would get super deep quick. If we could put a panel together with like Kaku, Weinstein,
Bob Lazar.
Yeah, Bob Lazar's got to be on there. I guarantee you, and I'll bet you anything. He will not be on Joe Rogan ever again. You can mark my words, and I'll bet you. I'll make a bet with you that he will not debate Weinstein, and he will not go on Joe Rogan again. I think he's gonna fade out of the public domain.
Mm-hmm.
He just moved. He moved United Nuclear from Michigan to Oregon. He's got a new setup out there. He's got an 11-acre horse farm that he lives on with his wife out there now, and I think he's just gonna retire and say forget all of this. I guarantee you. I just don't see it happening, bro.
That's interesting because Jeremy, hate to reveal it to you, man, but he's got a new documentary coming out. So and especially when David Grush testified, like he came out on Twitter and like everyone owes him an apology. He was right. What? That doesn't mean you were right, Bob. Right? Again, the things people stretch this to. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't mean your story's right, Bob. That you're for telling the truth. You know, someone made a comment on here that's interesting. People want to believe him makes it a little easier to lie. That's exactly true, man. You see that in religion a lot. A lot. You know, I was in a church for many years, a long time ago. I'm agnostic now, but I did it. I was all in for about 3 or 4 years. You can take advantage of someone when they want to believe you. Honestly, it's fucking easy. It's really easy. Bee's Knees made a comment too that I thought was interesting. He said there's no possible way to smuggle out an element that only exists inside a particle accelerator for a microsecond. I mean, yeah, right? It's like, but again, facts, details that don't always matter to a lot of people. If you want to believe his story because you think, yeah, we got UFOs, we're reverse engineering it, this guy, he's telling the truth. Oh, forget the details. Forget how you'd get this unstable element, right, out. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Again, if it doesn't make sense, why are we trying here? Like, it's not even, there's so much to it. Again, it's not like it's one little thing. There's a lot there. And you can't find anything that backs up his story. Does that make sense? There's nothing. I mean, I tried to look for things that backs up his story. There's nothing. Everything they are purporting backs up his story. It immediately falls apart. In fact, there's more information that says he's lying than telling the truth. I'm just saying. And I'm all in on David Grush, y'all, for the most part, right? At least that's who I'm focused on. Okay, this guy's got maps and names and places and things. Okay, let's look at that. Let's find out. He had the balls to go testify in front of Congress under oath. Right? He was actually in the government, provable, decorated. You know, and Bob Lazar's coming out. See, told you so. No, you didn't, dude. We can corroborate David Grush's stuff very easily. Verify his background, his education, all this stuff. He's not lying. He's just saying he has a bachelor's in physics. You don't see David Grush going, yeah, I got masters from MIT, Caltech, Harvard, Cambridge. Like he just starts making up stuff. Got a history degree from this. Like, he's just like all over the place. I don't get it. Bob is part of the project to do the walkthrough of Area 51 in VR. Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Supposedly the element is some chunk that was in the ship. Yeah. Yes, that is what he's claiming. Burchett hinted at that he met someone who was lying. I think it's Lazar. Yeah, I did a whole video on that. Look it up on the channel. Who are these 7 people is the disinfo agent, right? Anyway, it's very interesting. This is also, we're getting ready to take a look at that trailer, y'all. But this is also very interesting what he says about Element 115, this guy. Again, go look all this stuff up yourself.
If he's leaking classified information on scientific level, right, like the Element 115 stuff. So that's the real big scientific thing that he supposedly came out with, and there's so many misconceptions about that as well that I'd like to spend a minute to clear up.
Okay.
So one is that, elements are, the element number is based on proton number. That's how many protons are in the nucleus. So hydrogen is number 1. It has 1 proton and 1 electron. The electron's number balances the proton number so that it has a 0 charge. They always like to be neutral. So this issue of the protons, it's just addition, man. So you're just like element 115, the periodic table goes up to a certain number, and then to just predict that it's going to go to higher numbers that we haven't created yet. I mean, this was figured out back in the 1960s.
Yeah, I agree here, right? And the element 115 we did discover of recent late. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Bob Lazar's telling the truth. It has nothing to do with what Bob Lazar claimed element 115 could do. Right? So Bob Lazar's is telling you the truth. Again, that's what the guy does. I'm just saying, it doesn't add up. These things don't add up, y'all.
By a guy named Glenn Seaborg, the periodic table, about element,
This is where I think he got the idea for element 115, Bob Lazar.
Higher elements and this so-called island of stability. So this island of stability.
Hang on.
People misunderstand and misrepresent the physics constantly, and it would be good to get a guy like Eric Weinstein on with Bob Lazar. I know that Eric Weinstein has publicly accepted Joe Rogan's offer for to have a debate, because Joe Rogan put the challenge out there. Can we get someone to kind of quiz this guy? And
Yes.
Weinstein finally said, you know what?
Bob Lazar has turned down all of that sort of stuff, right? He's not willing to like sit down with anybody and go toe to toe with real scientists, real physicists. Another interesting point, he says it somewhere in here, but we're going really long on this video, so I'm going to skip ahead, but I'll just tell you and you can go watch it and find out for yourself. The same month that Bob Lazar does his interview, with George Knapp, okay, May 1989, that same month, a magazine comes out talking about this hypothetical element 115 in Scientific America, right? Like, again, these things just don't add up. So I think Bob Lazar, right, he's so many parts to, and that's what a good liar does. Again, I'm not saying Bob's a liar, but a liar takes truths and adds on to them, twist them. That's what a good liar will do, right? That's just psychology. You can Google that, look that up. I did that too, right? And you hear that about Bob Lazar's story. He took the hand scanner from Close Encounters, right? Takes the sports model craft design from Billy Meyer, right? Like everything is just all parts of his story, or take element 115 from this magazine he reads, right? Everything is just taken from this stuff, right? So anyway, just that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Let's get to this right here. Again, we're going to watch that new trailer. It's coming. But this is very interesting. Jeremy Corbell, Stanton Friedman found this video, and it's fascinating.
So, Jeremy, you talked about Bob Lazar during your talk and your feelings about his case, but I guess now that we had that Q&A last night, if you could kind of reiterate your feelings, and also because you've been involved with a lot of interviews with him lately and seemingly have become a friend of his, but also maybe what you thought of the Q&A.
Well, in what you just said, my feelings have nothing to do with the Bob Lazar case. I looked at...
Pay attention to what he says. My feelings have nothing to do with that. He will then proceed in this video. Again, there's links to all of this, y'all. You can go watch it yourself. He then proceeds to get super feelings all over himself, super emotional. My nephew described feelings, being emotional like that one time. Feelings all over yourself. Thought that was funny, but it's so apropos here. Literally, Jeremy just gets so emotional. So emotions get so wrapped up, right? Because he can't stand to have anyone question Bob Lazar, even though his whole message is weaponize your curiosity. You've got to ask questions, right? If you look at my video titled, Let's Review Promises Made from the UFO Community, and there's a thumbnail of the guy, it says, trust me, bro. If you watch that video in there, I discuss that, where Jeremy Corbell on the Theories of Everything podcast says that, like, you've got to ask questions. You've got to be curious. Meanwhile, he's about to rip into Stanton Friedman, okay, who's an actual scientist. Because the guy, Stan Friedman, was like, looked into Bob Lazar's education, and he's like, I don't believe this guy. I think he's full of crap. And I can respect UFO researchers and people looking into this when they call BS on certain things. I mean, honestly, how could you not, how would you respect anyone that's just like, yeah, it's all true? Right? You've got to call BS on some stuff. It doesn't make sense. Again, people that want this to be true should be the most skeptical. Skeptics should have nothing on you for being skeptical. You should be like, dude, you're nothing. I'm more skeptical than you because I want this to be true. People always say debunkers, skeptics, they don't want it to be true, so they're just looking for a way to whatever. Well, then they're probably not very good at it. If you want it to be true, you'd be the most skeptical. Because why would you want to lay your truths and the thing you believe in, right, on a sand patch of nothingness, right? Like just put your house in the waves, in the tide. Like it doesn't make any sense, on a thin sheet of glass, you'd put your thoughts, your truth, your beliefs. Like it doesn't make sense. You'd want it to be sound, right? So then you can actually believe in it instead of having to worry about if it's true or not. Does that make sense? I mean, otherwise, I guess you could just believe whatever you want. But yeah, and you can. To each their own, right? This is my channel. This is what I do. I ask questions that I find interesting, and this is interesting. So let's continue with Jeremy Corbell here.
And have been looking at it, not through a standpoint of feeling. Bob is a friend, and that has nothing to do with why I believe Bob Lazar, and has nothing to do with feelings or emotion. It has to do with spending years and years and years investigating his case and being able to see it from every angle from the inside. There's so much.
That's the problem. He's seeing it from every angle from the inside because he considers Bob Lazar a friend, right? You need an outside investigator, someone with no skin in the game. He's clearly got skin in the game. And you're saying he did this for years and didn't find any of this stuff interesting, right? Why is there no other scientist in the Bob Lazar documentary that he did stating like, yeah, there's no way to pull this sort of unstable element secretly out of this, but like that doesn't make, like, again, no pushback, no real pushback. To me, the whole clip that I showed from the documentary about him showing him pictures of the hand scanner, that's enough to show you the type of investigation Jeremy Corbell did. And again, nothing against Jeremy Corbell. I'm just saying, if your documentary is going to be about the truth, is Bob Lazar telling the truth, we need to know if we can trust him. And then you willy-nilly throw this out. If you would have just did a biography on Bob Lazar and said, I don't know if he's telling the truth or not, but you know what I mean? And then you manipulated the whole raid of him. You use it at the beginning and the end to pull people in and make it seem like they're after his element 115 when clearly that was not the reason. Right? Again, it doesn't add up.
Conception about his case. I think it was great that he came up on stage. I mean, you have no idea. My mentor, George Knapp, he's the guy that really helped me with all of my investigation, all of my work, not just on the Lazar case. He had to literally drag Bob. He was so terrified of you guys. And I honestly, it was unbelievable. I asked him to sign a few posters. I have a short film out about Bob that we released 2 nights ago. And he was like, he wouldn't sign the poster. He was like, are you sure people want they don't want a clean one? They want my autograph on it? I'm like, Bob, people like your story. They like who you are. You have to do it. So it's like,
yeah, doesn't matter if you're telling the truth or not, I guess.
Kicking and screaming, can't believe miracles do happen. George and
people use that for Bob again as like this excuse. He's not trying to make money. He's not trying to be in the public eye. He's not trying to be whatever. Meanwhile, he is everywhere. He's going to all these conferences. He's doing these speaker things. He's selling this. He's selling that. He's trying to sell his movie to Hollywood in the 90s, to New Line Cinema with Steven Seagal. Get out of here. Look that stuff up. It's real. It's like, but as soon as people are like interested in his story, they look into it and go, oh, wait, we can't deal with this guy, right? Like, so in my opinion, Bob's not afraid to come forward because he's telling the truth and he's worried about, he's worried about getting hard questions he won't be able to answer. I put a link to it, and I didn't show one clip in this of that on purpose, of the Joe Rogan interview he did. But I put a link to it, in the description so you can see it for yourself from his perspective, right? That's Bob Lazar's perspective. How many times does he get a migraine on that? Why do you think that was? Right? Because he was like, holy shit, this is like the largest platform in the world. Like, are people going to see through my bullshit? Am I going to say everything right? Am I going to keep my story straight that I've told over so many years? And he didn't. Even though Joe Rogan keeps saying his story is straight, it's not straight at all. He's so inconsistent with it. He just is. I'm sorry. If you're not willing to see that, I don't know what to say. We all have to have an open mind on whatever we hear without factual evidence. Yes, but that also means that's from the chat. That also means not saying it's true. Again, the person making the claim has to provide some evidence. They're the ones making the claim. It's not on the critiquer to bring the evidence. That's just not how it works. And also, that's not fair. Where would we be as humanity if that was the case, right? It honestly, it doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't rely on that in court. What if a rape victim was like, this guy raped me, and then the court was like, okay, the guy who's accused of rape, you need to provide the evidence. What? You wouldn't say that. The person who made the claim, they've got to show proof that happened to them from this person, right? And the police investigate, look into it. Right? It wouldn't make any sense to put it on the other way around. Right? I use that as an example because it's extreme, but right? Again, Bob Lazar is claiming something that would forever change humanity. We cannot take that lightly, that claim. The greatest question man has ever faced, are we alone? And I for sure hell want to know if that's true or not, because it's fascinating, right? Gosh, a lot of comments. Let me see here. Beesney says, I do believe that your history can be erased, but you should still be able to remember who your roommates in Cambridge were. There should still be several ways left for him to prove himself. He didn't go to Cambridge. He never said he did. I just threw that on. I mean, he just started lying. I was just saying he's lying about where he went. But no, he claimed to go to Caltech and MIT. I do believe your history can be erased. Beesneys, if you saw at the very beginning, watch the beginning of the stream. I kind of debunk that in a way. Like, some of your history can be released, but not what Bob Lazar is claiming. Again, if you look through the history of all whistleblowers, some of the biggest in history, their academic records are still there. Their birth records are still there. Somebody needs to give me an example of someone making a claim as big as Bob Lazar and their history being erased. Because you know what the government actually does against real whistleblowers? They try to put them in jail. That's the truth. You think Ed Snowden, if it was all just nonsense and fake, they try to put those people in jail. If Bob Lazar I'm just saying, in my opinion, why do you think David Grush went the way he went? That's why David Grush has the most validity to me, y'all. He's going through the proper channels. He's testifying before Congress, right? And to sort of compare these guys is just nonsense. Like, David Grush is trying to do the right thing here. So anyway, but maybe some parts of people's history can be. If you look at how hard it is to erase like school records, education records, it's beyond hard. Anyway, let's get back to this here, guys.
Got him to come and talk to you guys, and you know what I got to tell you, because he won't. You have no way of knowing. He loved you guys. He thought it was so cool that you wanted to hear what he had to say. You gave him a good experience.
So he spoke at this thing, and they're all excited he spoke. And there's Shaka right here. This gentleman, he's having a grand old time right here. That's Stan Friedman. Okay, so he's going to be like, Knapp, I don't believe Bob Lazar. And they're about to get into it.
And I can tell you the 100,000 reasons why you should look at his story with a rational, non-emotional mind and make the decision for yourself about him. And I'm happy to go into those points, but...
non-emotional. Meanwhile, you can tell he's getting emotional.
Again, all I can say is I believe Bob. I'm happy to tell you why.
Great. I think we'll get into some of those points later on and discuss some of those. Hopefully, Bob Lazar will watch this. Yeah. And I'm curious myself to find out from the audience if you could clap. I'm kind of putting you on the hot seat right now, and maybe your opinion will change towards the end. But if we could just, from clapping or from supporting with a yell or whatever, how many of you believe Bob Lazar?
Just the fact that they have to even go through this, right? It should be like, this is why he's telling the truth. Here's the evidence. It's literally all about emotion. And Jeremy Corbell just said with the non-emotion, right? Like, again, it's just like, I don't think they notice these things happening right in front of them. And good for, gosh, I hate to be like so negative. But again, I'm not the one making the claims here. And this is my job to point this stuff out.
Well, like Bob shared last night, he was very hesitant. I thought that would be the case, and that's what I told him. And I think we have confirmation here and with the Q&A.
I just want to say thank you for doing that, because I don't know what you're thinking. And just there, it's so cool that you believe him like me. But I hope that your belief is rooted in your personal investigation into the case as much as...
Okay, Jeremy, people don't have time to personally investigate every person that comes out and claims they saw a UFO, they got abducted, they this, they that. Now, Bob Lazar being more high-profile person coming out to claim, again, people don't have the time to investigate this stuff. They're going to rely on people who are standing on this stage saying, I investigated this, right? And you hope that that person actually did investigations, didn't become friend with the guy they're investigating, right? Again, what if a cop investigating someone just becomes best buds with them and then later goes to the court and goes, well, I think my boys, he's a good dude. I don't think he did it, right? What kind of injustice would that be? We wouldn't allow that. So I just think that's a disservice to Jeremy Corbell and his investigative approach. You have to stay neutral. Him becoming friends with Bob Lazar should be the biggest red flag to you. Same with George Knapp. That should be the biggest red flag. They constantly call him a friend. Right? It should be a huge red flag.
Because a belief is something that you will lose immediately if someone throws garbage at you if you haven't earned it, if you haven't spent the time to look at the details unemotionally and with an empirical eye. So I hope that's why you're clapping, but Bob's going to love it. He's going to love it. So
it's kind of funny that should happen right before we get to, I think what many people would feel is Bob's number one skeptic. He get to Mark.
Well, why they got to talk about him like this, right? This guy, he's, I mean, come on, man. I just like Jeremy Corbell setting that up before we get to that, right? Like, let's make sure we get everyone riled up emotionally, which I just told you not to do. And then, yeah, let's talk to the skeptic. Ha, ha, ha. Wavy says here, Wavy, big fan of the show. Thank you so much for joining on a lot of the streams. I appreciate you. They said, we need facts from these people, not opinions. I agree. Opinions should come from us, right? As people that want to know the truth. Because I'm like y'all watching. I'm not some insider. I'm not out there searching UFO crash sites and claiming to have, sources and all these things. That's not me. And again, I've said many times, I will never be that guy. Because then I can't stay back here and criticize and ask questions and investigate, right? All of a sudden I become friends with these people. I got my own friends. I don't need them as friends. So let's continue. The man right here.
I wanted to echo what Jeremy said. You got to investigate. You got to check the facts. You got to go after the evidence.
Yep.
And I know most people believed him, but you didn't ask him what it is they believed. So we'll talk about that. What I don't believe that he has said.
Great. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Look at Jeremy grabbing that mic, getting ready again.
Stanton,
He gets so emotional.
You did a Mirage Man thing here on the audience. You said, what are they applauding for? Am I wrong? And I would like to hear the applause.
You did a Mirage thing, man, on the audience, and then he proceeds to. That's what he did before. Like, I don't like Jeremy Corbell going after Stanton Friedman right here. Like, I honestly, that guy has done more in the UFO community than Jeremy Corbell. Like, it's sort of I'm from Texas. It's sort of one of those, like, respect your elders. But more than that, it's the idea here, right? Like, respect this guy that has been in this a long time and is asking these questions. And you taking it so emotionally that anyone would dare be a skeptic of Bob Lazar is just a complete again, that shows have no impartiality, right? And that shows you're emotional. It's like just gaslighting from the get-go, telling people not to be emotional, then being emotional, telling people they're being Mirage Men, and then you are that Mirage Man, right? It's projection, it's reflection, it's everything all rolled into one here.
If yes or no, do you believe in Bob? What you mean is you believe he back-engineered alien spacecraft. Is that right? Okay. I just wanted to make sure that Stanton knew and I knew what you were applauding for.
Yeah, Beasties, I agree.
No offense, but I don't want anything twisted. So.
That's great.
Okay, can I?
Go ahead, Mr.
Can I
Friedman.
untwist?
Do what you got to do.
Okay.
Notice how Stanton didn't interject when Jeremy Corbell was talking, right? They're just all treating him like, oh, this crazy old man over here. Oh, man. I got nothing against Jeremy Corbell, but he's coming off so cringe in this video, man. And I've seen this before, and it's always stuck with me, especially what he's getting ready to say about Bob Lazar.
First introduced to the idea of Bob Lazar 25 years ago at the MUFON conference where Bill Moore gave a terrible paper. We won't go into that. I met George Knapp, heard about Bob Lazar, and everybody was asking me about him because he was being promoted as a nuclear physicist with a master's degree in physics from MIT and a master's in electronics from Caltech. Now, those are pretty darn good credentials, if they're real. But I wasn't going to endorse him until I checked on him. I looked at my directory of the American Physical Society, and most physicists belong. He wasn't there. So I started a probe. And where I have a problem is every time I checked, I found he wasn't telling the truth. Now, this is about Bob. This isn't about what he was doing, because he really wasn't saying a lot about what he was doing. And there are two separate questions. I talked to 5 people at MIT, nobody ever heard of him, including the physics department and the place that has the master's thesis. The legal counsel said there's no way for the government to wipe out anybody's records, which was the argument why anybody couldn't find anything. The legal counsel assured, MIT's been doing classified work since 1940. I mean, it's not something new for them. Caltech never heard of him. I asked George Knapp, or George Knapp gave me Bob's high school. It's in New York State, Long Island. And so I called them, had a call back when Gal dug out his records.
And mind you, more people looked into his education, not just him. So.
And I said, I'm getting different information, about what his background really is. So briefly, the conversation was, well, let's see, I have his file. He graduated in August, not with his class. That usually means you failed a course, Okay. He took a lot of science courses, didn't he? She says, chemistry. What else? Chemistry. Okay. Was he valedictorian of his class?
It doesn't mean you failed the course. It may be you didn't take a class and do the required credit.
Jeremy, let him finish, man. You can always tell when someone's worried about you getting closer to the truth because they just interrupt you. it's such a like debate moment, or if you've lived your life, if you have experience just living life, right? That's what people do. If you start telling the truth, they want to jump in and stop you. And he's just being disrespectful.
It's again a thing that doesn't quite make sense, but I feel you.
Let me finish it.
Yeah.
He didn't have any other science courses. Then I asked, was he valedictorian? No, she laughed. And I have to give you the background why I asked that question. I was valedictorian in my high school class in Linden, New Jersey, 1951, a long time ago. And I was accepted at MIT, except I couldn't afford to go. Tuition was $950. What is it, 27,000 now? So I resented the kind of implication that this guy had graduated from one of the top schools in the country, and MIT qualifies. Was he in the top 10 in his class? No. Top 50? No. Now she's laughing. Top 100? No. He was like 265 out of 366, which is the bottom third.
Okay, but can we cut to the chase here?
Well, he's
The
getting
point
to the...
is,
Jeremy Corbell, can we cut to the chase? What do you mean? This is the chase. He's let him say what he has to say. Again, if you had nothing to worry about with Bob Lazar, you would just let this guy go off. Let him say it. If it wasn't true, you would just let him say it. Right? But Jeremy Corbell doesn't want these things heard. He doesn't want to lose the crowd. Right? It's just so interesting. It's so telling of him. And he's so emotional. Right? And if you notice, homeboy right here, Mr. Friedman is not. R.I.P. to Mr. Friedman. He's no longer around. He's not emotional. He's just trying to say what's happening. Basically, he's at the bottom third of his high school class and somehow gets admitted to MIT, which is impossible. But hey, Jeremy Corbell's like, can we cut to the chase?
that the notion that he went to MIT doesn't stand up. Nobody could find him in a yearbook. None of 5 people there I talked to, including the registrar, had any connection with him. And he was in the bottom third of his class. An MIT admissions office says you got to be in the top 20%. They'll bend if it's more than 15, you know.
Why isn't that important to Jeremy? Because he's not interested in all of the facts. He's just emotional. He's stopped listening. He just is waiting for him to stop talking so he can start talking.
He was lying about having gone to MIT. I'd called Caltech. They never heard of him. He was asked in Rachel, Nevada, home of the infamous Little Alien, to name some of his professors. He said, let's see, Bill Duxler will remember me from Caltech physics. I looked in my directory. There's Bill Duxler. I called him. He never taught at Caltech, only at Pierce Junior College, which is a long way intellectual.
Look, there's a lot more to this, but and you can watch the whole thing. They can't find his professors. They can't write whatever. But there's something in here that Jeremy Corbell says that I got to get to it. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit until I can find it here.
We're going to go back and forth, man. You know, you got to give me a second. You know, you say something.
Okay.
So, like, basically, let's just get to the crux of it. The crux of it is none of this is really the point. I mean, really, the point is, how did he know that?
Why are people clapping that? What do you mean it's not the point? It's part of the point.
Clap. That's a good one, Bob. That's for you. None of this is really the point. Okay, the point is this. You know, how did Bob know that on Wednesday over Papoose Dry Lake that there'd be something?
I didn't say he wasn't there.
I know. So we're talking about things that aren't important. So, but let's get to the chase here.
Him lying about his massive education isn't important. Again, Jeremy Corbell has no.
Let's get to the chase.
No, wait. I think Stanton is about to say something
but
that
did
you're
he
going
work
to
at Los
find
Alamos?
surprising.
Isn't that the deal? Didn't he?
Well, I checked on his working at Los Alamos.
Right. And
I
George
saw
Knapp.
the phone directory. It says K/M after his name.
Right.
And that means he worked for a subcontractor, not for the lab.
So George Knapp is lying when George Knapp.
So that lab I looked into that. You could go use that lab. You could just pay to use the lab. It doesn't mean you worked for the lab. Like, lots of people did that. If you had something to experiment on, you could go do that there. And Bob likes to have these little home experiments. Again, they twist everything to make it seem like, oh yeah, he's this physicist. See, it's in this newspaper. Because he told the reporter that he was a physicist at this place, and they just printed it, and that's what he uses. But the media is lying as well. So it's like, which is it, Bob? They deleted your records, but they left that newspaper out? Like, again.
That he went in with Bob Lazar, and that he had the run of the place. He took him into the particle accelerator, that every employee knew him, that he's interviewed.
Again, it's like you can rent that. It's like going to a U-Haul storage and walking around and showing people the U-Haul storage. Yeah, because you rented a storage unit there. Doesn't mean you own the U-Haul and you work for U-Haul, right? Like, it doesn't.
Number of people that have worked there with him, and that he worked on special projects. George Knapp is lying?
I'm saying Bob is lying about having degrees from MIT and Caltech.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. What do you mean, okay, great? That's huge, Jeremy.
Keep your eye on
If
the
a
prize.
person lies, why should you believe what he says about anything?
You've never lied to get a chick? Okay, so...
You never lied to get a chick? You're saying... What, Jeremy? You're saying that Bob Lazar lied about his credentials, his master's degree from MIT and Caltech to get a chick? But then the government hired him to work on this UFO reverse engineering program, even though that wasn't true, right? Because they can clearly find out if that's true because they erased the records, right? So which is it? Did they erase the records, or it's he lied to get a chick, right? You can't have it both ways. Bob is saying it is true. They erased my records. Jeremy's saying, oh, you never lied to get a chick. Like, again, which is it? Nobody can keep their story straight here. Yeah, Jeremy is clearly emotional, and Stan's getting a little emotional too because, I mean, to be fair, Jeremy's just all over him, and the crowd really isn't, hate to say it, the crowd really isn't there to be sort of fair, right?
I'm just saying...
Stanton, would you answer that question, please?
We've all done it. No, okay, so look, let's just cut to the chase here so we don't waste time with everybody going through what's been said for 25 years, diluting the issue. I can't swear, do I care about if Bob Lazar...
You're deluded, Jeremy. I mean, nothing against you, dude, but that's what a deluded thing to say.
MIT or Caltech? Well, a little bit. Do I care if he worked at Los Alamos? Yes, I do. Because if Bob Lazar worked at Los Alamos, that's kind of rational for me that he's a scientist.
That's not true. Again, dude. Didn't Jeremy Corbell spend years doing this? That's not how that lab works. Anybody can go into that lab and rent out part of it, right? And do experiments in there. That's all that means. Okay? That's all that. You don't work for the lab.
Wait a minute.
Oh, wait a second. Oh, he could be a janitor. Got you. A janitor that has access to the Maison facility, and everybody there works with him and knows...
The Maison facility isn't classified, my good man.
Right. That's okay, great.
Everybody who works there has a clearance.
So your point is Bob's not a real scientist. Is that what you're saying?
My point is Bob lied deliberately and without a doubt.
Look at Jeremy, just like, you ask him a question, just like, okay. I mean, what? Dude, I don't know how you feel about Jeremy Corbell, but this is just so disrespectful of him. On top of, he looks bad because he's not willing to face the scrutiny head on. Right? If you had nothing to hide, you would. And if you're this investigative person, you would want to see both sides and not get emotional like this.
about his credentials.
Okay, well, I'm not sure about that he lied deliberately and without a doubt, but you're sure about
By
that.
accident?
Jeremy, you just said, have you never lied for a chick? George Knapp doesn't even think. We showed earlier in the stream that George Knapp, in his own words, said, I don't think Bob Lazar went to those colleges, but that he doesn't think it's a big deal that he lied about it. So, again, what the fuck? Pardon my language.
You've been, and you
Well, wait about
decided-
this, Jeremy. So, when it comes to the education, okay, you talked about how you just said, Stanton, that Bob Lazar lied, and so you can't believe anything he said.
It makes me very wary of what he said. He also lied, I believe, about saying that they had 500 pounds of element 115.
So it can't be proven that he's a scientist, although it doesn't mean that he didn't work at Area 51.
It can be proven. I have
And
video
let me,
of...
I just have a follow-up question, but the question is related to Richard Doty. Richard Doty was the first one to mention MJ-12 in a document that he...
Hang on, let's jump ahead here. Again, go watch this whole thing for yourself.
What book did I write with him?
Did you or not? I mean, I don't know. You're friends with...
No, he worked with more. But I mean, what I'm getting at is that just like what Jeremy feels, even though perhaps some things could not be substantiated, or even if some...
51? I didn't say he
Say it
didn't...
again. Say it again. That was so gratifying. Thank you.
He's just using the crowd to his, right, like... man, it's just so disrespectful, man.
Look, I tried time thought if you worked at Los Alamos...
Kept going for 25 years. He didn't stop when he got satisfied with one answer. He didn't go to the school that he said he went to. They admitted that in the first report. George...
That's not true. That's verifiably not true. What they said in the first report was, we can't verify where he went to school, but Bob says they erased his records. Go back and watch that stuff. Las Vegas News 8, now, all of that stuff, look through it. Right? Part 1, after he's outed as not being Dennis anymore.
I didn't stop. I have footage of Bob Lazar inside Los Alamos. I mean, you can see it.
That doesn't matter, Jeremy. Again, like, does he not see the huge hole in that? Anybody can go put on a white lab coat and go in there and do an experiment. You don't have to be a scientist.
I hope Bob and George let it come out. It's ridiculous to me. This is the point. We're missing the point.
The point is what? That Bob claims he
know?
worked on back engineering a flying saucer. Call it what you want.
That's right. And he knew exactly where over Papoose Lake on 3 separate Wednesday nights, the exact time and location.
Why does that prove he's a scientist or knows how they work?
I don't even care. First of all,
correct.
He's a scientist. His United Nuclear just got a contract with the Naval Academy to basically take... No, hold on. Let me tell you this.
See, listen to what Jeremy just said. He's saying it as if it's a... This is a bombshell to me. He's saying it as if it's a plus for Bob Lazar. Let's take a listen to that again. Because, he's saying he's not a scientist, right?
Back engineering a flying saucer. Call it what you want.
That's right. And he knew exactly where over Papoose Lake on 3 separate Wednesday nights, the exact time and location.
See if you catch
Why does that prove he's a scientist or knows how they work?
I don't even care. First of all, what proves he's a scientist is United Nuclear just got a contract with the Naval Academy to basically take... No, hold on. Let me tell you this. This is great. This morning. He said at breakfast, he has a new contract, or he just finished it. They have these hovercrafts that go on the beach. The problem is sand is getting up in these huge ball bearings. So they're spending so much money cleaning these. So just like a month ago, what Bob Lazar is doing is creating neodymium magnets to clean out the sand from these huge ball bearings on hovercrafts for the Navy. He's not a scientist? Oh my gosh, he's more of a scientist than any of us.
Did you catch that? So Bob Lazar has contracts with the Navy, yet the FBI is trying to come after him for the element 115. This doesn't add up, y'all. Again, Jeremy's saying that as if it's a plus, right? But they just throw this stuff out and don't realize we know math, right? We can do math here. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why is the government coming after him for the element 115, right? They're after him. He's a whistleblower. We got to get him. We erased his records. But yeah, we're going to hire him for a contract for the Navy with magnets. Like, magnets are nothing, guys. You can just get magnets. It's not like he's solving the problem for, you know, these hovercraft. They're just buying a piece of material from him because he has a company that sells all this stuff. He tries to, in my opinion, tries to seem like a scientist. That doesn't make you a scientist. You get permits to sell that stuff. Again, it's Jeremy's rational thinking, right? I remember hearing this the first time and like, what? Bob Lazar has Navy contracts? What are we talking about? I never heard that before. No one ever talks about that. Then how's the government after him? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm just saying that to me is a bombshell. If you really pay attention to the details, that's a bombshell. And Jeremy's trying to say it as if it's a good thing. It's not. That just doesn't line up. So the FBI's investigating him and the Navy's giving him contracts all at the same time. Again, this doesn't add up, y'all. Somebody's lying. And Jeremy just comes off so cringe here. Anyway, y'all can watch the rest of that. Check it out for yourself. Let's jump to the rest of this, guys. Look, we're going to end on the trailer and some of y'all's comments. I'll end there. This is a website. Thank you to Chris, who's a listener, sent me this through Reddit. And I checked it out, and I was like, oh, wow, this is very interesting. There is a lot of videos of just raw Bob Lazar stuff. Right? Some of this stuff, whatever, but seeing all these old interviews, right, are interesting, man. Very interesting about Bob. Right here, his court sentencing. Look at that. It only has 597 views. But you can see his court sentencing for the prostitution ring. That he, whatever. The details on that. Again, nobody's perfect. I'm not saying that. But it's interesting. The things he said, whatever. And this happened after he came out on the news, right? Some of this stuff is just very interesting to go through. I'm talking about the raw stuff, okay? The raw footage, right, of him and what he's saying and how the stories just don't add up, y'all. He's got all these experiments he's doing and whatever. It's like, look at this, at Groom Lake. Like, there's a lot of interesting stuff in here for sure. I'll put links to all of that. And of course this, go check it out, whatever. I don't know about that, but all right, let's end on this new trailer that's going to be coming out. This new trailer here. Let's see if I can, let's make it bigger. Be fair here.
There's really no way I can prove it without revealing my identity and getting myself into more trouble than I have already.
Exactly.
Again, this is Bob Lazar's new documentary that's coming out, The Original Whistleblower, because, doesn't want all the attention to be on David Grush now, right? Here he is in a DeLorean out in the desert. Let's go back. Start over. I sort of interrupted it. I want to be fair to Bob here.
There's really no way I can prove it without revealing my identity and getting myself into more trouble than I have already.
Exactly what's going on up there?
Well, there's several, actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs that are out there of extraterrestrial origin, and they're basically being dismantled. Some are, in various stages of completion, built from other parts, and they're being test flown and basically just analyzed.
I was 29 years old, working on the most incredible project in the history of the world. No one has ever been able to show exactly what I saw with my own eyes, until now. Let's travel back in time to December of 1988, when this all started.
Always important to see who's a part of it. Always look at the credits, y'all. So in collaboration with Bob Lazar, Project Gravatar Production, in association with We Are Not Alone, in collaboration with Bob Lazar, Motivo. So go look up those companies, Motivo, Project Gravatar, right? We Are Not Alone. Who's the writer-director? Christopher Matau, executive producer, Luigi here. Look, I'll give it to them. It's great trailer in the sense of there's some really cool shots, right? But I'm not even sure what it's about. I'm being honest, right? I don't have any idea what this is about. It's just going to be using, it says right here.
There's really.
We're going to be revolutionary film featuring cutting-edge technology, creating never-before-seen, stunning, realistic 3D visuals to immerse you in this fascinating story like never before. I don't know what that means. There's already like an awesome sort of Unreal Engine rendering of what Area 51 and S4 and the ship that Lazar looked at. Like, are they basing it off of that? Something that's already out on the internet? Anyway, I don't know about that. So anyway, that's what got me like, hey, Bob Lazar. I mean, I thought he's coming back in, right? Wants everyone to check him out. So again, guys, there's links to all of that stuff. You can check it out for yourself, see what's up, and you make it's up to everyone to decide for themselves. To be honest with you, don't listen to me. Don't listen to Jeremy. Don't let you decide for yourself based on the things you see. I'm just trying to make some good points, point out some things that I think are interesting, and just red flags. Again, I'm all for this, guys. I want disclosure, but I want real disclosure. Why should we focus on someone who's not being truthful? That's a waste. And if Bob Lazar is lying, I mean, think about that. So many people put faith in him, trust in him, right? How deceitful would that be? Which is why I think he would never, if he was lying, never admit it. Because he's like, oh my God, they will hang me in the town square if I admit it, right? Like, I'm screwed. I've got to carry this for forever, right? And I don't know. Did he want to be a part of something? Did he think this is real and it needs to come out, so I'll lie about it, right? Because it's real. So people need to know about it. So what I'm doing is for the greater good. This lie is for the greater good, right? Is that it? Or did he just want to, as Jeremy said, did you ever lie for a chick, to quote him? Did he lie about all this just to get a chick? And then it turned into, oh shit, now I'm going to go on the news. I'm going to, I don't want anybody to see my face, because I don't want them to know it's me. And then the story was big, and he's like, you know what? Fuck it. It'll come out. I can probably make some money from this. I'll be famous. Is that it? I don't know. I'm speculating. Just throwing that out there. Did he actually work for this UFO reverse engineering program? Even though he has no education to do it, and the government chose him to go in and look at this thing and spend 6 months on it, and he smuggles out an element. Like, I don't know. All right, did that happen? He can't prove anything. He says he's got element 115 lying around. That's what George Knapp says. All right, we proved that today in the stream. Yet, in Jeremy Corbell's documentary, they can't show it, and that's why the FBI is raiding him, even though he's got Navy contracts, right? And even though he's been convicted in early 2000s, right, federally, for selling chemicals you're not allowed to sell, which is why they were raiding him. Right, recently, because they were looking for more chemicals that he was supposedly not supposed to be selling, right, with this company that he has. And it doesn't make him a scientist because he has that company, right? Just because you buy a restaurant doesn't make you a chef. That's not how it works. So, I don't know. What do y'all think? Curious to read everyone's comments down below. I'm going to do another part on him, sort of take everyone's feedback. If anyone points out any holes, We'll come back. I'm happy to do this again. Again, there's a lot more stuff to look into about Bob Lazar, right? Just want to be fair. Probably go through the Joe Rogan interview a lot more and some of that stuff, some of the inconsistencies there, some of the inconsistencies with John Lear. Why has he been pushed to the side? All of a sudden, he was at one point the greatest thing in the world to the UFO community and to George Knapp and Bob Lazar, right? And Jeremy Corbell. And then all of a sudden, something's not adding up there. There's a lot of infighting within the UFO community. You just don't hear about it. A lot of drama in the LBC, in the UFO. So anyway, all right, guys, thank you guys for watching and listening. It's a long stream. This is fun. I'm probably going to start doing this on the weekends where I live stream instead of just posting the video. I don't know if I'll do it both days, but definitely one of the 2 days on the weekend. It's great to sort of just go back and forth with you guys. So I do like that live this way. Let me read some of these comments on our way out. Again, thank you to everyone that joined along the way. Feel free to go back and look through the links and watch any of this stuff yourself. If you want a closer look at some stuff, there's a lot to look into. So Joanna Conway says, yeah, Grush is the true brave hero. I agree. I'm all about Grush, man. Again, he's putting his money where his mouth is, right? Wavy, thank you, Patrick, for your time and effort to verify. We need more people like you in the UFO community. I don't know about that. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm just, I'm one of y'all, man. Just a regular guy asking questions, trying to find out what's going on. That's it. I'm no better. I'm not elevated. I'm not any more special than anybody. Mary says, caught alive. Yeah, Mary, yes. Mary is always constantly supporting the channel, so thank you, Mary, so much. Well, given me doubts on Bob as he couldn't name any of his professors at MIT. Oh, yeah. Watch the rest of the live stream, Mary. You'll see a lot of that. It's crazy, the stuff that's going on there. Elephant 115 is unstable, I think. How could he have it? Exactly. Yes, we covered that too. Mary says, I subscribe to Allie's YouTube channel, trying to learn more about the CE5 business. Thank you for recommending her. Absolutely. I'm doing a mini documentary on that, about remote viewing and close encounters of the fifth kind and that sort of thing. Everyone was just telling me, oh, it's bullshit. Just dismiss it. Wait a second. I'm having an open mind, guys. I'm not just going to dismiss it. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to try remote viewing. I'm going to try this CE5 thing and make a video about it, sort of well-produced. Our first mini doc here on Vetted. So it's probably going to be about 6 weeks before that comes in, because I've got to do weeks of sort of training and setting that up and really attacking it for real to see if there's anything there and just present it in a fair way, right, to people. Because honestly, so many people tell me it's bullshit and then you ask them, have you tried it? And they go, no. Okay, that makes me want to look into it more and cover it fairly for people, right? Because just dismissing it outright is nonsense to me. We can't just dismiss stuff outright in this, but we also have to be critical, right? It's a mix. We can't be true skeptics and we can't be just true believers on everything. We've got to find that nice balance and get to the truth, swim through the BS. So Joanna Conway says, Allie who? Check my video from yesterday. It's Hello Allie. You can Google her. She does CE5 and that sort of thing. So she's going to be helping me through that process. And she's awesome. I did an interview with them too. So if you look at the live stream I did yesterday in the description, you'll see my interview that I did with them. Conscious Phenomena and Hello Allie's YouTube channel. They double posted it, right, on 2 different channels. They interviewed me, asked me about Vetted, what's going on, and Lone Star Plate, my other channel that I do. So yes, amazing. Thank you guys so much for watching, tuning in, and commenting and being a part of this process. That's important. This should be a nice, safe community to ask questions, right? That's what it should be, an open dialogue. We can disagree as well, but agreeably, right? That's okay. It should be that way. We should be able to have a little bit of both, a little bit of skepticism, a little bit of belief, right? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm a chef, guys, right? Ex-chef. I don't run a kitchen anymore, but it's been about 5 years. But I did it for a long time, right? And it's about balance on the plate. That's what it's about. It's about balance. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys on tomorrow's video. It won't be streamed, so we'll go back to live videos. But I do join the videos in the chat. Okay, every time I premiere the video, I'm in the chat. You can chat with me there live. It's every day at noon, 12 p.m. Central. So thank you guys so much for contributing as well in the chat, your thoughts and opinions. So we'll see you guys next time on Vetted. I'm Patrick. Again, thank you guys.